like modern current television like 8 years before I left my community. I started reading books, started watching movies, but I'm still catching up, like um the caring group, this was such a funny thing. The caring group invited me to this like very small niche group of people who got to watch Thelma and Louise at the Paris Theater in New York with Thelma and Louise, with Susan Sarandon
Dina Davis.
And Gina Davis. And I go, and the first thing that they do is, Gina and Susan, they speak and they talk about the show, and then we start watching it. And everybody's talking. And as the show is going on, and I'm shushing people, I'm literally like, like a high school teacher. And someone turns to me, he's like, you would think you never saw this movie before. And I'm like, I've never seen this movie before. So anyway, so that was the first time I got to see Thelma and Louise. Awesome movie. So Bridget Jones' Diary, I saw around 2017. And there's a scene where Bridget is sitting on her bed and she has these granny panties, her shapewear, and she has to decide, does she want to wear them? And she'll look better in her dress. But then she can't bring the guy home because no one wants to be caught dead in shapewear. And so she doesn't want him to undress her and see it underneath. So she decides, I'm going to wear it, but she can't bring him home. She puts it on, it works. She gets the guy, but then she gets tipsy, forgets she's wearing shapewear, and brings him home. And there is the scene. They're laying on her floor in her apartment, and he like takes her shoes and he's like, look at these naughty little shoes. And then he starts unpeeling her dress and this naughty little dress. And then he sees the shapewear. And his face changes and his tone changes and he lifts up. He's like, oh my God, what is this? And he's like playing with it and her face. And I watched that. I was like, wait a minute. That's a really good question. What do women do when they wear shapewear and someone undresses them? So I started asking. And people gave me pretty much the same answer. Mid foreplay, we run into the bathroom, we take it off, we hide it in a drawer, we come back and we come back. I'm like, this is crazy. So that's what gave me the idea to make shapewear that when someone undresses you, you're not going to be upset that they see
Wow. So you have Renee Zellweger to thank for this.
it. Literally, literally.
You need to send her a bunch of it.
What we need to do is reshoot that scene with my shapewear. Now that would be funny.
There you go. There's your next like commercial, infomercial reel on
Well, honey,
Instagram
who says we haven't?
coming soon, right?
Coming soon.
What advice, because you say, like everyone has it in them, like what advice would you give someone who is, just starting out, you built Elite into like $1 billion company. Now you're building another company. Like what advice would you have to people that are just, like in a 9 to 5 that are saying like, I mean, I'm personally an entrepreneur. I had another business before this. I sold it. Here I am doing something different. Like, I think a lot of people want to take that leap, right?
Then I honestly, to me, that last sentence is, in Hebrew, there's an expression, Sheila tova chatzi tshuva, which means a good question is half an answer. So basically, your question also provided a piece of the answer. You said they want to take the leap. Right there is the point. Take the leap. Take the leap. You may fall. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to fall. But then you're going to pick yourself back up. Because the biggest impediment that people face is integral and internal fear. It's not out here, it's in here. And that fear is the fear of the unknown, the fear of failure, the fear of rejection, right? Because it's easy to do the things that we know really well. It's easy to do the things we're comfortable in. When you step out of your comfort zone, that's where growth begins. You are not going to grow until you scare yourself shitless. If you're not afraid every day, you're doing something wrong. That's how I see it. Challenge yourself every day. And as you said, leap. It's a leap. It's like literally jumping off a mountain without a parachute because the parachute is built inside of you and you don't realize you have it until you need it.
That is true. That's good advice. And I think being a little afraid in your business, it keeps you sharp, right? Like I do
Yeah,
notice when I get complacent is when I need to be woken up again,
that's it. The minute you're comfortable doing something, that means you need to be doing something else. That means you've mastered this already. Next, if you allow yourself to maintain the same level of mastery year after year, you're going to fall behind because our world is ever changing and technology constantly redefines everything in our life. What media is, what advertising means, where we get our news, how we communicate, what we communicate. It's constantly evolving, constantly changing. And if change scares you, it's over. You have to be able to go into the unknown. And as you said, leap. You gotta leap. That's it. You gotta leap.
And I think like ignore the noise, right? Like people want
Oh,
you to fail. The higher you go, they're going to want you to flop even more. Just
well,
ignore.
honestly, the problem is we can't ignore the noise, right? It hits us. So what I do is I can't ignore it. I'm a human being. Things hurt me. Can't ignore it. I drown it out. I make my voice louder. That's to me the only way to deal with it. I know it. I hear it. Don't care because my voice is the only voice I listen to.
That's good advice too. Do you want to, I mean, you're dating, you're out there. Do you want to get married again?
I am never getting married again under any circumstance. I told my kids if I even contemplate, if they even hear the first syllable, meh, just knock me off a cliff, faster death, I'm done. I mean, honestly, do I believe in marriage? Yes. Do I think marriage is beautiful? Absolutely. But not for someone my age and in my situation. Meaning, if you want to have kids, I think you should get married because I think your children need to know that you're both legally required to show up every day. I think there's comfort and security in that family unit. I'm 52 years old. I have 4 children. I certainly don't want any more kids. I've raised 11 human beings between my siblings and my kids, and I'm good with that, you know? So I don't see why I need to put a contract on love. I want someone every day to decide they want to be with me, and the day that they don't, or the day that I don't, we shake hands like menches and we walk the other way without destruction and, torture. So never getting married again. You heard it here. Never. But I
I
do want someone to live with for the rest of my life. I do want to find true love. I do want a partner. I just don't want to put a contract on it. That's all.
I agree with that. I've never been married, but I also just don't want to be married. I mean, the one thing that struck me on season 2 of My Unorthodox Life is when your divorce first, like this just stuck with me. Like when your divorce first started and it was all going well. And
Yeah,
then I'm like,
right.
Oh, Julia, you should have called
I
me.
was
Like,
so
I'm like,
naive. I was such a baby. I was so naive. I believed everything he told me. I mean, it's erg. But again, I learned, I've grown, and I'll never make that mistake again.
what is like the biggest thing you learned, not from business, but from that, like from this divorce and just the fallout? Like, is there one thing
That,
you've learned?
yeah, that I still feel inferior to men when it comes to relationships. That in business, I'm fearless. In my personal life, I was too much of a wuss. I let him walk all over me. I didn't question him. I didn't double check him. I acted like I did for my community. The man knows best. You be subservient. You please him. You make him happy. I'm not going to make that mistake again. And the other thing I learned is that I'm stronger than I thought I was because I didn't think I would be able to survive this, to be honest. And look, here I am, standing tall, um, started another brand, have a lot of things going forward, and I'm alive and I'm smiling and I like my life. And that means a lot to me because it means that I can handle things that I